Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Okay, guys, I'm tired of these terms like communism and socialism and democratic socialism and authoritarian or fascist, capitalist, neoliberal, all of these things. What's the difference between these? And I feel like people just throw them out a lot of the times without really just as pejoratives. But I want to learn what they are. Okay, the only thing I know is that I think socialism is the transition to communism from a capitalist society. I could be wrong there. I need to learn. Hope you guys are all doing well. Love you guys, and I hope you're ready to learn. If not, you're in the wrong class. Home ec is down the hall. Make me a pizza. It's been a long time since I said that. Anyways, get ready to learn or teach me. Communism versus socialism. Go.
This might come as a surprise, but in the history of the modern world, there has never been a communist country. While a number of countries have described themselves as communist, for example, China and North Korea, by definition, there has never been a true communist country. So, what exactly is communism, and how does it relate to socialism?
Tell me.
Well, it may be easier to explain what the two have in common. Both ideologies originate from a desire to limit worker exploitation and lower or eliminate the influence of economic classes in society. There are dozens of variations on both communism and socialism based on the different ways these ideologies are implemented in different countries. There's Stalinism, Leninism, Trotskyism, Maoism, and others which are essentially all versions of Marxism, coupled with various styles of revolution. Karl Marx was an economist.
Trotsky and Lenin had opposing views of how communism should be achieved. I thought they were kind of, boys on the same.
Stalinism, Leninism, Trotskyism, Maoism, and others which are essentially all versions of Marxism, coupled with various styles of revolution. Karl Marx was an economist and philosopher who co-wrote the Communist Manifesto, among other foundational books on communism. In short, his theory centered around the idea that as Europe transitioned from centralized monarchies to quasi-democratic capitalist economies, workers were being exploited by those who owned the means of production. So if you work in a factory or on a farm, as many at the time did, whoever owns the factory or farm is getting more out of the worker than they're putting in. This creates an inherent inequality, giving the owners, who Marx called the bourgeoisie, power over the workers, called the proletariat. In Marxism, to fix this inequality, society must shift towards a model where the proletariat hold this power instead, by collectively controlling the means of production. That's where socialism and communism come into play. According to Marx, socialism is a precursor to communism and the next logical step after capitalism. In socialism, a democratic state controls the means of production, rather than having private companies hold ownership. Instead of competing with each other as in a capitalist society, socialism has workers contribute as much as they can to the greater good, and then they all share equally in that good. Variations of this idea are already popular within capitalist societies in the form of universal healthcare or social services like fire departments and schools funded by taxes. While the use of these services is unequal, everyone is equally responsible for contributing to them based on their ability or level of income. So that's socialism. But once the state controls all the means of production, the next step is total collective ownership, not just of production, but all aspects of society and economy, including private property. The intention of abolishing private property is a classless, moneyless, and stateless society, where everyone works towards the same collective goal of being healthy, happy, and free. Everybody does what they can to contribute and takes only what they need in return. As I said before, there are no true communist countries, and there never have been. Every so-called communist country is actually a socialist country, with the state controlling employment and economy to some degree. Even the widely referred to Communist Russia was actually called the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. In short, socialism and communism are not altogether different. Rather, most schools of economics consider socialism to be a precursor to communism once the state has enough control over society and economy. But this total control is a major reason that socialist countries struggle to reach this ideal. Corruption is rampant in countries like the former USSR, Venezuela, Vietnam, and North Korea, largely due to people in power abusing that power instead of using it to help the society they control, and refusing to give up that power to the people. Nonetheless, socialist ideals have seen incredible success when paired with capitalism in countries like Sweden and Canada. The human hurdle of overcoming power and greed in government is the biggest reason we've never seen a true communist country.
Okay, but isn't that a major issue?
Power and greed in countries like Sweden and Canada. The human hurdle of overcoming power and greed in government is the biggest reason we've never seen a true communist country.
Okay, if that's the case, then my opinion, achieving a communist country is going to be impossible. I mean, I think it starts out with good ideals, and it's like when America goes around the world and says, like for Vietnam, for example, and it's like it's there to fight for freedom, you know, and democracy, right? And our government is better. But it's like, but you're bombing innocent civilians and bombing rainforests and doing all this crazy stuff. And it's sort of like, well, that's what he needs to have. That's like the goal of making them a freer capitalist society. Like it's the same hypocrisy as I feel like a lot of socialists yearning to be communist countries in history. There's an extreme irony. Just like with America bombing Vietnam into submission and then losing, is that like, yeah, free for everyone, and then like 2 years later, you realize that, well, okay, there's no private property, a lot of people are more equal, but then the people in charge don't practice the same thing they preach. And then you just sort of become a cog in a machine, and it's just
country. So,
I need to watch a lot more. But so socialism, as I think I learned this before by Marx, was that's what you call the government, a country going through the transitory period towards communism. But I feel like people don't see these constant failures and atrocities for people who try to aim for communism and fail, and then an excuse has been made, well, they didn't do communism. Communism has never truly happened. But shouldn't it be a giant hint that it's probably not possible to achieve pure communism, because every time it's tried, it fails miserably? And again, like I say with Vietnam, I'm not saying capitalism, yay, but and you couldn't call a country like northern, like any current like Nordic country, or Central Europe or Germany or whatever, Sweden, Denmark, you can't say those are, by Marx's definitions, those can't be socialist governments, because they're not in the aim of becoming communist. So if you have social policies and aim to increase and increase and increase and take away land to the government and distribute it evenly, except for those at the top, then by Marx's definition, you are not socialist. You are a capitalist society with social programs. Yeah.
As much as they can to the greater good. In socialism, according to Marx,
it's just I think that people striving for communism, or more and more social they have a very, I would say, overly optimistic view of human beings, and that show me any country, no matter what the societal, political, economic values they have, that doesn't have above, like, creating a classless system. Well, I'm pretty sure that the uppers of the Soviet Union or the upper ranks of communist China or whatever, I don't think they were living equally, you know? And so I find it hypocritical that calling out capitalist societies that exploit the workers and live lavishly, you're kind of being hypocritical going for the other way too. Does that make sense? I'm still trying to learn, guys. I think Marx and Engels were born during a time where capitalism was probably at its ugliest, or I guess the slave trade was probably, or any slave trade. I mean, I think the idea that capitalism is a new phenomenon is not true. I feel like capitalism, the instinct, the basis of capitalism of making a profit, as in selling something you have to someone in return for something that you see more valuable from them, right? And I think that basic idea of wanting to get better things, and when currency became a thing, get money, that's been around forever. And so I think that capitalism relies on a dubious, not so great, greedy nature of humans, and doesn't deny that it exists. Like, I think, and says, hey, let's curb it over time with social policies, rather than the kind of thought of ripping down capitalist society as if nothing we have is fruit of that. And yeah, I just like to be as real as possible. People are so hyper super adamant about this, enthusiastic, which you should be. It's politics and economic systems. If you're not curious and worried and interested in that, then what are you supposed to be? So I want to respect everyone, but I also just want to get straight to the point. Does that make sense? Great video. Love y'all. Hope you guys are doing well. Go easy on me. Just let me know where I'm wrong. If you think I'm right, wrong, whatever. Hit all the buttons. Did I say the original link to the videos top of the description? If not, I just did, as well as the Discord. All right, would love to have you there. Bye, guys.